Time for a bit of culture here on France 24. If you're an art lover, you don't always have to head to Europe's capitals to see the major museums. In Spain, you could just as easily bask in the art of Bilbao or Barcelona as find it in Madrid. Nor do you have to be in Berlin to enjoy the artworks in Germany. But in France, all of the country's major museums were based in Paris until recently. The eastern city of Metz was never a big spot on the tourist itinerary, but that changed when the Pompidou Museum was unveiled in 2010. It was an attempt to support a major cultural establishment away from the capital. Did it work? Kyle G. Brown finds out.
Some call it the province's little brother of Paris's Pompidou Museum of Modern Art. Just 2 years old, the Pompidou Center in Metz hosts hundreds of works of art. And like its very structure, the paintings and photos are modern and out of the ordinary, as is the approach. Visitors take a flashlight to see this photo exhibit in the dark.
We already had museums on the history of the region. We have an aquatic museum nearby in Nancy. But this is something more modern, and we needed this, particularly in the region. I've been to Paris, and this is like a kind of mini Paris.
Pompidou Metz is already a success. With more than 1.5 million art lovers since opening, it's the most visited museum in the country. Outside of Paris, of course.
We want to defend the idea that this is not a provincial outlet of the Pompidou Museum in Paris, not a branch of the Parisian art scene. It's a museum in its own right, with its own cultural program.
With the nation's major museums concentrated in the capital, Pompidou Metz is the first example of decentralization of a major art establishment. When it was opened in 2010, in the middle of Europe's financial crisis, it brought some measure of relief.
Eastern France is no longer the forgotten part of the country. This centre allows us to say that we exist too, in a different way.
That's a view shared by the city, a partner in the project.
It's a real boon at a time when the economic situation's so difficult. We've estimated that the museum earns as much as 80 million euros a year.
Word has spread of the Metz Pompidou. At least 1/4 of the visitors come from abroad, many of them from Germany. And it's still early days.
So it's time for our cultural slot here on France 24. And our art critic Sean Rose is on set with us. Nice to see you, Sean. Big week for you. There's a new museum here in France. What's that about?
Well, it's in Lens, in the north of France, in the mining region. Well, used to be mining region. It's quite a very distraught region now, but it's inaugurated today with Louvre Lens, which is kind of a daughter museum of a Louvre in Paris.
So it's an annex of the Louvre.
Yes, an antenna. And it's housed by a beautiful building designed by Japanese agency Sana. Sejima and Nishizawa are the architects. It's beautiful, it's glass, and it's got multimedia facilities, very high-tech audio guides that are incredible. And one of the original point about this museum is that you can see also everything. You can see the job of the people who work there. I mean, restoring the painting. So you have the storerooms. Here the multimedia, and here are the storerooms. You can see through the glass, and you can really see what's the treasures that are being restored there.
And why did they choose to put this annex in Lens? I mean, it's not one of the most, one of the best-known French cities. As you pointed out, it's in a mining region, and everyone knows the coal industry is long dead in France. So the Pompidou Center, there is a precedent. The Pompidou Center founded a daughter museum in the rich city of Metz, but why would they choose Lens for the Louvre?
Well, the Louvre is, they chose Lens because there was nothing apart from a football stadium. So they chose it because it's part of the mission, I think. But the best thing is, I did
mission
ask myself...
of public service.
Of public service. And I did ask Henri Loiret, who is the director of the Louvre, why they chose Lens as a city to establish the museum.
Lens, as you know, is one of the French cities that was hit very badly by crises and wars. For a flagship museum such as the Louvre that stands at the heart of a cultural capital, it was really important to reach out to other parts of the country. somewhere that had no cultural institution but is quite unique. It was good to test a new cultural attitude, guiding an audience that is not acquainted with museums.
So what's the main distinctive feature of this museum? What's your favorite feature?
Well, the main thing is actually is the Galerie du Temps, the Gallery of Time, which is a rectangular, a very long room, which is very beautiful. There's no actually pictures on the walls, and you walk through the antiquity to the mid-19th century. So you have it's where the best picture, the best selections of masterpieces from the Louvre, Paris come, and they're there for 5 years. There's a turnover of 20%. But you have, really the big, it's not a second-rate museum. It is the Louvre, and it's beautiful. So you have the best works, also from other regions, like Turkey. Here you can see Turkish plates. It's kind of, when you go to the Louvre, it's so huge. You've got to go to one department to the other. Here it's all in one, so you have a big, a broad vision of the history of time.
In one room?
Yes, in one rectangular room,
and it gives you a sense of the passage of time.
Absolutely, the timeline. You've got a timeline, and you've got these, the masterpieces like Raphael's, Castiglione, Rubens, the Baroque painting, like with lovely fleshy curves. You have medieval art, Renaissance art. As I say, it's what the concept in France is like transversal. That is, you can see also from other perspective, like other countries, and you end with the beautiful Delacroix, freedom or liberty guiding the people, which is very, it used to adorn a French banknote. That Delacroix was very kind of, the kind of very famous, painting.
Okay, so Sean liking the curves
and
there.
So this is this is the Gallery of Time, and I'd like to talk about this this particular aspect where you don't have paintings on the wall, and it asked the scenographer Adrien Gardère why there were no paintings on the walls. Adrien Gardère.
I decided, along with the curators, that we would not put any artifacts on the walls, because no artifact was to be seen without perspective, without depth, without being in dialogue with the others that surrounds it, the one that comes after, the ones that come before, the ones that are to the next. And then the architect, Sejima-san, said, oh, you will not hang anything on the walls. Well, why don't we erase the wall? Why don't we try to make them vanish to a certain extent? And that's where they introduced the aluminium cladding of the inside of the Galerie du Temps. Somehow it conveyed all the ghosts of the reflections of the artifacts that are not here, that stayed in Paris.
Sean, when are we going to be able to visit the Louvre Lens?
The 12th of December.
12th of December.
Wait
all right.
Next week.
All right, remember that date. Thank you very much, Sean Rose, our art critic here on France 24. We're done for now. World News is back in just a few minutes. Bye-bye.